Thank you, Jesus. My name is Judah Smith. Oh, that's cool. Nice. Yeah, my name's Judah. Did someone have the Warriors score? No, I'm just kidding. Don't tell me. I want to do this thoroughly. I don't want to think about that. I go to Santa Rosa High School. I'm a senior this year. I'm graduating. Let's go. I'm so pumped. I'm pumped. You know, he's called me to that place, but oh boy, do I want to walk the other way. Just got to be obedient. Thanks for having me tonight. Thanks for coming, sacrificing time. I love it. I love this community. I wanted to just speak on the story of Lazarus. And in John 11, feel free to follow along if you want. But the more I was reading in John 11 of the story of Lazarus, the more I realized that it wasn't just a story, it's our testimony. And I'm going to get into that later, but as I was reading, I just felt God say, this is your testimony. This is you. This is who you are. This is what I called you to do. So just get started. It all takes place in the village of Bethany, where Mary and Martha have a brother whose name is Lazarus. And he gets really sick one day to the point of death. And Mary and Martha send a message to Jesus saying, Jesus, our brother's sick and we need your help. Like, can you come, please? And this is God's first promise to them. He promised to them like 3 or 4 times, if I'm correct. And this is his first promise. He says, Lazarus' sickness will not end in death. No, it happened for the glory of God, so that the Son of God will receive glory from this. And I was reading that, and my mind started going back into my testimony and all the hardships I faced and all the struggles I've been through. And he said, these are my promises to you. And that's just stuck. And so Jesus remained where he was for 2 more days before leaving for Bethany on the 3rd day. And he said to his disciples, let's go back to Judea. And his disciples, they were confused. They said, Rabbi, or teacher, a few days ago, they were trying to stone you, and you want to go back? Yes, I do. And then they just kept persisting. But teacher, they tried to kill you. And he uses a parable to respond to why he isn't afraid. John 11, 9 through 10 said, he replied, there are 12 hours of daylight every day. During the day, people can walk safely. They can see because they have the light of this world. And he uses this parable to set an example that he's not afraid because he might be in danger. He's not afraid of being stoned. So I guess number 1, don't let fear stop you from living in the fullness of God. Jesus didn't do that. No, he said, our friend has fallen asleep, but I will go and wake him up. And to many people in their testimonies, he said this, like he said something clear and direct. And his disciples said, this confused them, and they thought he literally meant that Lazarus has fallen asleep. And a lot of times this happens in our lives. Like Lazarus had fallen asleep, and we misunderstand. We're like, God, okay, if he's going to go to sleep, then he's going to be fine. And that's exactly what the disciples thought. And Jesus said, Lazarus is dead. He had to say it completely, like straight out. And for your sakes, I'm glad I wasn't there. For now you will really believe. Come on, let's go see him. Jesus arrived, and Lazarus had already been dead for 4 days. And just a side note, the number 4 in numerology, biblical numerology, means new creation. And I thought that was ironic. No, not at all. It was God. It was planned. And so Martha doubted him. Martha came out when Jesus arrived, and she said, Lord, if you had only been here, my brother would not have died. That's us, right? That's our doubt to God, right? In situations of trial and conditions of trial and trouble, we say, God, if you had only been here, I would have lost my father. I wouldn't have lost my sister. I wouldn't have fallen into sin again, right? Father, if you would have been here. And Jesus promised her again, your brother will rise. Like he promises straight up, your brother will rise again. And she doesn't get it. She said, yes, I know he'll rise when everyone else rises on the last day. I know that. And Jesus said to her, no, I'm the resurrection and the life. Anyone who believes in me and lives in me and gives their life to me will live even after dying. Like he promises that to us. And he says, he kind of tests her. Do you believe this, Martha? And she said, well, yes, Jesus, of course I believe it. Do you believe this? She said, yes, even though we allow doubt to come, even though we have a foundation of, yeah, I'm going to live even after death because I believe in you, we allow doubt in situations of trial and situations of trouble, and when we're tested and when we sin and when we're tempted and when we lose people. In those situations, doubt still can come in and it can trouble us. And Jesus says, do you believe me? And she responds, yes. And she went and got Mary. And she went and got him, and Mary came out. Mary ran up to him, and she fell at his feet and started crying. And she was crying, Lord, if you would only have been here, my brother would not have died. Right? We see it again. Lord, if you had only come a day earlier, I would have gotten a raise. I wouldn't have fallen into temptation. I wouldn't have lost my cousin. And when Jesus saw Mary weeping, he was moved with tenderness and emotion and kindness. But he was also moved with anger. And it says not anger at the mourners, anger at Mary and Martha. He was angry at the enemy. Right? And he replied, where have you buried him? And they took him to the burial site. They thought, oh, he's probably just going to want to mourn with us, right? And as Jesus is going to the burial site, his tears start streaming down his face. And I was reading that, I'm like, wow, God, you cried. You didn't have to cry. You could have raised Lazarus without even saying a word. But he cried. He puts himself in situations of doubt, and when we sin and when we lose people, and we look to God, he puts himself in those situations and he cries with us. And I just couldn't help but start bawling at this. Like when I read that, it's like, Jesus, wow, you came and you cried? You didn't have to do that? Why did you do that? It's because he loves us, right? Like he comes and he cries with us. When Jesus arrived, he said, roll the stone aside. And Martha says, Lord, he's been dead for 4 days. Like, the smell will be horrible, right? He's decomposing. Roll away the stone, come on. No, Jesus. And that's us. When we sin or after we lose someone or whatever we're going through. No, Jesus, don't come in. I'm dirty. I'm rotting. I'm not worthy. Jesus, stay away, please. I deserve this. I deserve the chains. And Jesus says, roll it away. Jesus responded, didn't I tell you that you would see God's glory if you believe? Didn't I promise you like 1,000 times already? They rolled it away. They rolled the stone away. And Jesus looked up to heaven in John 11:41 through 42. And he looked up to heaven and he prayed. Okay. He prayed, Father, thank you for hearing me. You always hear me, but I said it out loud for the sake of all these people standing here so that they'll believe you sent me. And he prayed this. He didn't have to pray this once again. He didn't have to do this. But he set an example for them. And he did it for a reason. So when the stone was rolled away, Jesus, he didn't whisper. He didn't point his finger at Lazarus, right? It says in Scripture, Jesus shouted, Lazarus, come out! And Lazarus came out bound in grave clothes. Lazarus, come out! He could have just spoken. All right, Lazarus, get up. Buddy, come on. Hey, stop playing, bro. Come on. No, he shouted. Probably still teary-eyed from when he was crying and emotional. Lazarus, come out of the grave. And Lazarus came out, bound in grave clothes and his face wrapped in a headcloth. And this was my favorite part. Jesus said, unwrap him and let him go. And that's us. God, don't come in. I'm too dirty. I don't deserve you. I don't deserve this. I deserve the chains and I deserve the crucifixion. Don't come in. I'm too dirty for you. Come on, son, roll the stone away. And so we go up to our stone and we kind of nudge it. Whether we've sinned or lost someone, fallen into temptation, we just nudge it. God, please don't do this. I deserve this. And we go up to the stone and we reluctantly move it away. But with a little bit of faith, Jesus grabs that and he takes that and he yells at us, wake up! And he goes a step further. He says, unwrap him and let him go. Take me. Unwrap him and let him go. And that's the gospel. He grabs a small amount of faith we have with moving that boulder aside, moving whatever's in front, whatever we don't want him in. We think, I'm not worthy. God, like you can have that area, but as for this part, you don't want to go in there. It's finished. It's been 4 days. It's too late, right? Like I'm dead. There's no coming back. Roll away the stone, son. Unwrap him and let him go. And I feel like that's us tonight. I feel like there's parts of our lives that we haven't moved the stone away. And there's parts of our lives we don't want God in because we don't think we're worthy or we don't think we're clean enough for him. But he comes and he puts himself in our shoes and he cries with us. And he goes in, he shouts at us. And he unwraps us from all our luggage. So I would encourage you, if you feel like you still have a stone and a boulder and a tombstone to roll away tonight, I would encourage you to do that. If you would take this as a tug on your heart, if you've been feeling like, God, I feel you calling me, what do I do about it? This is the moment. Like whatever you're holding back, just roll away the tombstone. And I'd like to invite the prayer team up. And if you feel like you're ready to move a stone away, if you're ready to let him in and see what he can do, give him a small amount of faith and see what he can do. Right now, I encourage you to come up and get prayer and give him a little faith and watch what he does with it, because boy, it's amazing. He never fails. Every area of our life, every place we felt failure, we felt unworthy, he can take it, he can wash it. He died on the cross for that. You don't have to carry it anymore. So I would encourage you in this moment, take a step of faith. Come up to the front. And it can be embarrassing. It can be like, I don't want to be judged by others. There's probably going to be people judging you. But God can take that. When you stand out, God will take that and he'll turn it into a cleansing. He'll change your life. He'll wipe the slate. And he'll turn it into something for his glory. He'll turn it into something great. You watch that as you take a step of faith, he's going to bless you. He's going to come into your life and he's going to shift your way of living. Come on, somebody. Sing this again, sing this song again. Just let the words resonate in your heart. Let it echo in your heart. Let's give it to him tonight, shall we?
Still in your hands, this is my confidence, you never fail, your promise still stands, great is your faithfulness.